Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, Ellen and I were lucky enough to sit down with Tiffany Wells. She is a listener of the podcast, but I am also lucky enough to work one-on-one with her. And we thought it would be a nice change of pace to switch things up and have a listener on, because if she's going through something or if she has gone through something recently, there's a chance that you might be going through the same thing or it's going to happen in the near future. So we thought it would be a nice change of pace to bring somebody on that you might resonate with a little more.
Tiff, super proud of you. Thank you for opening up and being honest about some of your recent struggles for us and for the listeners. This episode was unbelievable. I think we have a lot of people on the show that have a lot of clarity. And I remember times in my life when I had very little clarity on who I was and what I really want to do with my life and for what purpose. So if you're there, this episode is going to help you tremendously. Now, I also want to remind you about the mailing list at thehyperconsciouspodcast.com. Click on join our mailing list and you are going to get 3 Hyperconscious morning minutes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The only way your life gets better, as you know, is if you get better first. Please let us help you do that.
You're holding on to the microphone like you're doing some sort of concert here. I like it.
I know, right?
So we went deep into Tiffany's story, and her goal is to help empower women. She was in a toxic relationship. She dealt with that for a while because she had doubts about herself. And she really, looking back, wished that she didn't have to go through that. But since she did go through that, now she wants to help empower other women to make sure they don't have to go through the same thing. It was a next level episode, and we hope you will enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. No. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is shown.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good? Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today we have a different variety of the podcast. We have a very special guest who is actually a listener. I've actually been lucky enough to work with her over the last couple months, and we love bringing you guys next-level guests who have reached the peak of success, who have accomplished the things that they set out to do. But we also feel like having somebody on who is ultra relatable, because she might be dealing with the same things that you're dealing with, or she might have already gone through something you're going to deal with. I think that just from the aspect of relatability, it is a great idea to do this. So we are sitting down with Tiffany Wells. Tiffany, how are you doing, sunshine?
I am great.
You are great. We are super excited to chat with you today. I am used to hearing your voice because we talk. We do our calls, but Alan hasn't been able to talk to you yet, so this is a first.
So, Tiff, yeah, for the listeners, this is the first time. I've heard nothing but amazing things about Tiffany, and again, she's been working with Kevin for a while, and this is the first time that I've gotten to hear your voice and to get to know you, and I'm very excited to ask you different questions about things you've gone through and your journey. So first and foremost, Kevin and I talked in the preamble with you a little bit about going into your story. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I guess a quick backstory about me. So I'm 26. The last couple of years, I had been in a relationship with the guy that I thought I was going to marry, that I was just head over heels for, and just completely devoted my life and everything into that relationship. And it was very toxic. I was cheated on. I was just done really dirty the whole time. And because I loved him, I thought, well, my love can save him. Like, I need to stay in this, like, I found my entire identity in this relationship, and I couldn't bear the thought of removing myself, even though I was unhappy, because, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how to be alone. My whole 20s, I've been in a serious relationship with someone, and I just never, I never took that plunge to be on my own and to learn how to do that. So I stayed in this horrible relationship for almost 3 years, went through just a lot of anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and just completely and utterly lost myself. And then I just one day kind of started working on myself and just started kind of opening my eyes and realizing that, there's better, that I can do more, and that I could maybe be on my own. And that's kind of when I started my personal growth journey. I found you guys, and I just was super empowered. And one day I was just like, I'm done. And I left him. And then, since then I've just been working my ass off to be the best person I can be, working on my own ventures and just chasing my dreams.
I love that. That was an amazing little. That was awesome. That was a great little intro. So, I think that Alan knows this. I always speak so incredibly highly of you because you and I, we always joke about this. Like, you and I are very similar. Like, the other day, I was texting you something and you texted me at the same, like, literally the same time. The text went through. And I think I resonate with you so much because I see a lot of myself in you, like, sitting on the edge of the bed debating suicide. And one of the reasons and one of the things that I was really interested to talk about was when we have these people like Lori Harder on, or, these people who are 20 or 30 years into their journey, their rock bottom moments were usually years ago. And for you, it was months ago. Like, it was literally, 4 or 5 months ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and even I've had multiple rock bottom moments. I think like December, January was really just, that's when it all hit me.
Can you so I watched the video that you sent me. So just for the listeners, Tiffany wanted to start a podcast, and she's in the process of doing so. And one of the things, yeah. And one of the things I said was, send me a video of yourself telling me your story, not because, just because I know how hard it can be to sit in front of a camera and be unbelievably vulnerable and be as authentic as you possibly can. And that's what I used along with the knowledge that I know about you to study for this episode. But in that video, you walked me through what your rock bottom moment was when, you realize, like, I put all of my time, all of my energy, all of my effort, and my identity into this relationship. And now that I have this relationship, I have nothing. Your car got towed. Like, everything happened one after another. Can you just walk us through what that was like what that rock bottom moment was to you, what it was like, and then why you felt different the next day when you woke up?
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I had been living out of state with the guy I was dating, so I moved back to Kentucky, but I didn't move back to my hometown. I moved to another city that I hadn't lived in before, and, trying to get a fresh start and everything. And so, I broke up with the guy. I was at a job that I absolutely hated, dreaded going to work, was miserable the whole time. I was completely broke. If it wasn't for my friends and family trying to help me pay bills, I would have been evicted. My car got towed and it was like 2 degrees outside. And I didn't feel like I had literally anyone. I had like one friend in the city, and I'd lost all my friends. I was in a relationship for 3 years and I blocked everyone out. So I didn't have anyone. My family just said, "Oh, it's your fault. You could have came home. You're crazy for not coming back home." And, they didn't understand. And I felt like I lost everything and I didn't have anything to do. Like, I had started an online business that I had, and I thought that was my passion. And then I was, it hit me. I was like, this isn't my passion. This isn't what I want to do. And everything just hit me at once. I felt so alone and so hopeless because I didn't know where I was going. And I just remember sitting by myself for like maybe 6 hours and cried the entire time. And I'm typically a person that when I'm upset, I'll reach out to a friend or someone to talk to. But I was just so upset at this point. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I shut my phone off, and just all of the thoughts came through my head. I was like, being dead would be better than this. Like, the feelings were just so strong. And I'm such a deep person anyway in the way I feel things. So it was just completely overwhelming, and anything bad that could happen happened. And I just kind of allowed myself to go through it, and I let it all the fuck out. And the next day I woke up and I was kind of almost mad at myself because I'm not that person, that's not me. And, I felt like I got it all out. I hit that spot and I was like, it's time to move on. We got to do bigger and better things. And then you ironically reached out to me like 2 days later, didn't even know what I was going through. And here we are.
My goodness. So, Tiffany, I actually have a lot of different questions that I want to ask you. The first one has to do with personal development. So I say this a lot, and I'm sure you've heard me say this on the podcast. Personal development saved my life. Fitness saved my life. So in my worst emotional turmoil of identity issues and lowest moments, addiction to alcohol, things like that, for me, it was fitness, which I would argue is one of the greatest forms of personal development that really gave me hope for a brighter future. So I'm sure you've heard me say that, like, I think one of the most important things in the human condition is having a compelling future. So for someone who might be in a place similar to what you were, hindsight's 2020, I guess what was it for you that connected up, okay, personal development is my vehicle to a brighter future. Therefore, I believe in something greater than this shit that I'm in right now, which will kind of pull you out of it.
Yeah. So, fitness was part of it for me. That's always been something I've focused on in my life, on and off, just never consistently. But I think the biggest thing for me was trying to find my purpose and my passion. And whenever me and Kevin talked, and then it kind of all just hit me, and I realized what I wanted to do with my life and, my purpose. And when I did, I also realized that in order to be that I'm going to have to go through so much growth, and I'm going to have to become a completely next level person in order to do what I want to do. And that purpose is so strong for me, and it means so much to me that that's kind of what got me through literally, everything. All the personal development was to be the person that I need to be so that I can help, change people's lives.
Unbelievable.
I have a question. So I think I'm guilty of this as well, and I heard you say this in the video that you sent me. You kind of just fell into relationships, and you didn't do your due diligence necessarily on, is this person even a good match for me? Like, how do they interact with other people? What are they like in stressful situations? What are they like in different situations, right? So I've done that in the past as well because I was just longing for connection. I was longing for not being alone. So I definitely understand, and I really, really internalize what that feels like and why you would do that. But can you go into that a little bit for the listeners? And I'm sure some of the listeners have gone through that as well. But when you say, like, I just fell or I just jumped into a relationship, can you kind of go into, from your perspective, how that happened and what that means?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever I got into the relationship that I just got out of, I had been single for a month, and I had just got out of like a year relationship. So this guy that I've known him for a long time, but he just hit me up, and then we started, we went out on a date and we hung out every day. And then literally we just became like boyfriend and girlfriend. It just turned into a relationship. It wasn't even, we spent like 4 days together, then started dating. So it was like, I liked him. I was like, well, I'm attracted to him. I've known him for years. Like, I thought I knew what kind of person he was. And, so I was like, well, this is fun, and this is way better than being alone. So I guess that's what happened. I just went with the flow instead of, trying to take my time or asking, him like, let's, just see what happens. No, I just totally went with it and jumped right in. So I guess that's kind of what I mean by falling into it. It wasn't intentional. I just went with the flow. I didn't really make a conscious decision to, yes, I want to spend my life with this person. I want to, dedicate time to this relationship. I just went with the flow. I didn't decide to do it.
I love that you use that word intentional because the root of that is intention. And when you set intentions, you'll find that, things will come your way and they'll move into alignment. So it's almost like, that's something I say all the time. And I'm sure, Tiff, you've heard me say this, and Alan, I know you have, but most people end up in a relationship by default. And if you haven't planned out that relationship, if you haven't put in the background work to become, a next level person in a relationship, somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who is a great communicator, somebody who is confident, somebody who knows what they bring to the table, and you're not looking for the same thing in somebody else. It's like a lot of things happen by accident, and I don't think success happens by accident. So it makes sense, but I'm so glad you went there and said it wasn't intentional.
Tiff, I can already tell that there's a lot of things that I personally can learn from you, because you're not only a female and who's been through some things that I personally haven't been through, but I think your perspective is going to be huge for me. So I have a lot of different questions that I want to ask you, but one of them in particular is, for someone who was in a relationship that you referred to as toxic, I've been taking notes here, and, you know, having been cheated on and been mistreated, looking back, if someone is out there right now in a position where someone is not valuing them to the extent that, you know, makes them feel good about themselves, what can you tell them about, first and foremost, how you can relate and how they're not alone, but how to get out of that? Because you just did, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, it's really tough. It's tough when you care about somebody and, you know, they mistreat you. And even if, like in my situation, it wasn't all the time, you know, he had an alcohol addiction. So he had a severe problem with alcohol, and that was the root of all of our problems. And so when he was sober, which was rare, you know, he treated me great. Things were amazing. But then when he would start to drink, you know, I didn't matter. Like, we weren't even in a relationship. So, you know, I've been there on all different levels. But I guess my advice would just be, you know, what kind of life are you making for yourself? What kind of life do you want to live? I mean, it just hit me really hard. I'm 26, and I know I'm not that old, but life is way too short to spend time with someone who doesn't appreciate you, because I guarantee that there's somebody out there, there's multiple people out there that would, you know, love you and just appreciate you for everything that you are. I just think that, you know, we get into relationships that aren't right, like falling into them, and the wrong person, like, you can never be right for the wrong person. And if they're not valuing you and they're not treating you well, they're not the right person. And you just have to, you know, you just have to get out of it. However you can build up that strength, you just have to leave.
I remember one of the first things that you and I ever talked about, and I think this was very early on, like one of the first, this was before we were even talking on the phone, and I was helping you there. I think I was just like texting you, but I remember saying, Tiffany, you have to understand that before you start healing, you have to forgive yourself. Like, you have to forgive yourself, because I know maybe you feel stupid for staying for as long as you did, or maybe you feel like you wasted your time. Can you go into that for the listeners? Like, how does one forgive themselves? Because for you, being the person that you are, having the mindset that you do, having the awareness that you do, you're able to take the lessons out of these experiences where some people might just kind of like paint that whole situation black and never look at it again. So how are you able to take the experiences out that you have? And then how did you focus on kind of forgiving yourself and understanding, like, okay, this doesn't make me a bad person. This doesn't make me a stupid person for everything that I have gone through. I was dealing with that for a reason, and I have to kind of address that underlying reason first. Multiple questions.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, I think for me, I have such a big heart, and I care about people deeply. And I think for me, it was just the love thing is, you know, I really cared about him. I loved him. For me too, I wanted to help him, which was also a problem, because you can't change someone. But I guess for me, it was just the way I forgave myself is I love very deeply, and I don't think that that's a flaw. I just think sometimes you know, like in this situation, I gave it to the wrong person for too long. I definitely think that I could have stepped out of it sooner, but I guess I was able to forgive myself just because of that, you know, for a long time I was like, well, you're an idiot. You know, everything was right in front of you. People called you stupid. You know, they just thought you were a complete idiot because you were with someone who cheated on you and did all these things. But, you know, in my head, I wanted to work it out. I didn't want to just give up. So I think I forgive myself because I have good character and I have good qualities. I just got it wrong, and I never got it wrong that bad. And, you know, everybody makes mistakes. So I don't know. it was really hard. I'm still struggling with completely forgiving myself for it. But I guess I just think that you have to live and learn. People told me, but I couldn't hear it. I had to experience it for myself, and I had to get to that rock bottom and then just look back and, just know that my character, like, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table. I just got it wrong once, but I'm not going to do it again. So I don't know if that answers.
No, it does for sure. For you and for the listeners, you have to remember this, and we've talked about this multiple times. The reason you're able to want to create a podcast and want to change people's lives is because this happened to you and you took it in stride. Now, obviously, it wasn't that easy, right? Like, that's not exactly how it happened. But if you didn't go through this, you would not have, number one, the mental strength to tell your story so openly and, with so much vulnerability. That is a tough word. I thought I was going to screw it up. But like I said, like I've told you this before, I am so grateful that I went through the pain that I went through, because number one, I think it would have killed most people. And number two, now it is literally my mission to make sure that nobody ever feels like you and I felt. Like that's why I resonate so highly with you, because what if I got to you 2 days earlier? What if I reached out to you 2 days earlier and I could have helped you through that? To me, that's what this is all about. And I know when you say you have the biggest heart, like I have been able to witness that. I've gotten the opportunity to talk to you for many hours, so I know that for sure. But I want you to know that part of forgiving yourself is understanding that maybe this was part of the journey. Maybe this is part of you lining up your purpose, and I think that might help you.
Yeah, definitely.
Tiff, you mentioned earlier in this podcast, and so I want to bring to the listeners and to you real quick, we had Cheryl Hunter on the podcast one time, and she went into her story, and I don't know if you've heard that episode, but she talked about how at one point she was so low that, and she actually started tearing up and crying on the episode just thinking about this, where she said, okay, what do I have? There's all of these things I could focus on that I don't have, but what do I have? Like, who am I? And I remember her saying that the only thing she could think of was that I'm kind. And that she could build from there on kindness. And now her mission is to change people's relationship with adversity. And so, Kevin and I talk often about how you'll never be all in until you've felt the pain of all out. I've been there. You've obviously been there. Kevin's been there too. When you talked earlier on this episode about your purpose and your passion and that you found it, and that has obviously helped you have that compelling future that I referenced, what is that to you now? And obviously this can evolve, and it will evolve as you continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, my purpose now definitely, after going through everything is, I just want to help empower women to, we all hit the rock bottom. Obviously, everyone has that moment. And I just want to help women basically through that rock bottom and help them to, get on the path that I am to, the personal development, to building a life for themselves and not just, finding their identity in a relationship. Like, I just want to help women to, understand that they can get through everything, go through the darkness and then, find your passion, just live, just live the life that you want. And it's just the most important part to me, though, is just going through all of this shit and not letting it, take you down. Basically, that's my thing.
All right. So from behind the scenes here, since I know more than most people do about you and your journey and all of that stuff, I know that you've really, really, really been putting conscious effort into getting out of your comfort zone, going to networking events, like being on other people's podcasts. I know you just booked a flight and you're terrified of flights. Like, you're doing so many things that scare you, and it reminds me of me. I think that's why I resonate so much with you, because you're doing these same things that I did to face my fears and to get out of my comfort zone and to say, like, I don't want to be this person anymore. Like, I'm capable of so much more. So when it comes to fear chasing and getting out of your comfort zone, like, what were the small steps that you started with initially that people can, like, try to learn from? Because obviously starting a podcast is a whole thing. Obviously, if you're afraid of flying, getting on a plane is a whole thing. Networking events are some of the most anxious things I've ever been to. But what are some small steps that somebody listening can take to, like, start getting out of their comfort zone initially?
Yeah, so really small things was just like reaching out to someone on Instagram that, I looked up to, or that I thought might have been, similar to, the journey that I'm on, and just connecting with people. And, because it's easier to talk to someone online and type to them than it is to go in person and meet somebody. So that really helped me a lot. And being in like Facebook groups, and just, so I have like my business online, and, just prospecting and putting myself out there and doing, just like introduction calls with people to see if they might be a good match for my business. That terrified me. Literally getting on FaceTime with you for our coaching calls was terrifying.
That's why we did it.
Oh, come on. He's not scary. He's
Right?
soft.
I'm soft. I'm a teddy bear.
No, I'm kidding.
But that was very nerve-wracking. And it was just, and even little things like the networking thing that I go to now every other Wednesday. So just even getting on that app and looking around, and finding groups in my area of people that are similar, and just RSVPing to go, and then making the decision to get my car. And just, it's the little things like,
Yep.
I RSVP'd, I got in my car, I got to the driveway, and I was like, okay, now you got to get out of the car. And then I did it. And like the flight thing, I'm just completely like, it's my biggest fear. All of my fears are bottled into one thing when it comes to flying. So like me and my friend, like I really want to go to this music festival in Canada, and I was like, let's just do it. Like, let's just get the flight, let's just go, and I'm not going to think about it until I have to. So I don't know.
What is the thought process? So I always tell people, like for you, and I understand it's a little bit different because I know you get like super anxious on when it comes to flying and thinking about it, but say for example, the networking event. What is your thought process of, okay, I RSVP'd, okay, it's 4:30, I have to leave now so I can get there for 5. Okay, I'm in the parking lot now, and now I have to walk in. Because I think so many people get to one of those points
And stop.
and then they stop. So how do you just keep pushing through to the next level, to the next level, to the next level? Like, what is your thought process when it comes to like stepping through the fire, so to say?
Yeah, that's an easy one for me, because I know that what's on the other side of the fire is going to make me grow as a person, and it's just going to better me. I don't do any kind of fear chasing that doesn't have a high reward, that isn't going to make me better. So for me, the reward is, it's worth the risk. So I guess you just got to find what means enough to you that you can push through to do so.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you were enjoying this episode where Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with Miss Tiffany Wells. We wanted to talk to you today about a new course that we just created live and free at the hyperconsciouspodcast.com/free. Hold on. Meow.
And there's the board.
Can they see it?
They can't see me.
That's okay.
How am I
Can they see you?
So this, they kind of can. So this course is called the PMES system: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. The key to this, Kevin, you can drop the board now. The key to this is understanding yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, and understanding others so that you can communicate more effectively. Do you think we should get back to Tiff?
I do.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Tiff, I love that you just said that. So you were stacking small wins. Okay, I RSVP'd. Okay, now I'm getting in my car. Okay, now I'm in the parking lot. And each one of those moments is scary. And you mentioned why power, having a big enough reason. For a listener out there who, and here's the crazy thing, we hear these quotes on Instagram of like, oh, like being afraid is like, that's going to limit you. But it's like, look at how tangible this is. You want to go to a music festival, and if you don't overcome your fear of flying, you quite literally will never get to experience that. So I truly believe that this isn't just some fortune cookie quote. Like, on the other side of fear is who you've always wanted to be, who you've always been able to be, who can experience the level of life that you truly deserve to experience. And so I work with my clients on this stuff constantly because I'm always trying to be aware of what they're afraid of, because where their fear is usually the thing that's their biggest bottleneck. So for someone out there who is very clear on the fact that they have a fear and that what they want on the other side of that fear is something that they truly desire, how do we get them to realize, like, if you don't stack these small wins and actually find a way to overcome this fear, you're never going to experience that part of life and get the growth associated with it? Like, what can we tell them to maybe get them over that hump?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one because I've struggled with that for so long. There's so many places I've wanted to go that I've missed out on from being, from the fear of flying. And I think it's just, when you look at it and life's short, the experiences that you want to have, the things that you want to do, if there's this one tiny thing that's holding you back, I mean, it's just like, you just got to be, I don't know, you just got to be brave enough to, just make the leap. Like, you're never going to do what you want to do if you don't overcome that fear. And I mean, it's unsettling, of course, but I don't know. You just have to, I don't know. You got to like talk yourself into it. I mean, doing the small things, just,
Or text Kevin.
Yeah, just text me.
that's probably the best option, honestly.
I told you that, like, trust me, I will be flying out to you eventually, and we will fly somewhere together. Mark my words, I have set that intention, and when I set intentions, I do whatever it takes to get them done. So I honestly would love to do that, because I guarantee I'll be more afraid than you.
I doubt that.
And we can have anxiety attacks next to each other. It'll be a whole thing.
Okay, I'm down.
I wanted to talk to you about, so I told you something. I said, Tiff, you're getting into personal development. You're getting into bettering yourself. You're basically separating yourself from the masses and from the crowd. And I want you to know that you're going to probably be pretty lonely, but in different ways. Now, I know you're kind of somebody who it's quality over quantity for you. You want people in your life that are good for you. You want people in your life that are positive and who believe in you, support you, and understand you. Now, how are you dealing with that part of this journey now? Because, again, it's still lonely. Like Alan and I'll speak for myself. I get very lonely at times because there's only so many people I can talk to that I think truly understand what I'm going through, and I know what that's like. So that's why I talked to you about that early on. But how are you dealing with that now? Is that still a thing, or are these networking events and you kind of falling into your purpose helping you a little bit more with that?
Yeah, so I mean, at first it was so lonely, which because I've talked to you about multiple times. I mean, it was just, I was happy with where I was going, but at the same time, I felt completely alone. Now, I mean, it's definitely gotten a lot better. The networking events have helped because I've connected with two ladies that are on their own journey similar to mine. And, we're meeting up to have like lunch and coffees and things. And so, I have a couple of people now that I can go to that are similar to me. And I guess the biggest thing is just getting out there and actually physically meeting these people and not just meeting them online. It's helped me to realize, okay, there actually are people out there that are like me and that, they want to connect, they want to help and, mastermind and do these things together. So for me, it's given me a lot of hope, and I'm not so lonely anymore because I know the people are there. It's just finding them, which is another fear chasing opportunity, is just putting myself out there to find these people. So it's definitely 10 times better than what it was a month ago.
Good.
And that will continue, by the way, because you're going to attract more and more of what you are. I like what you said. I was finally happy with where I'm going, but it was really lonely at first. That's so true. You changed course, and therefore all of the relationships that you had built up to that point were predicated on some things that you were then cutting away from. I had a mentor recently tell me, Alan, when you make a decision, it's not just choosing a new path, it's actually cutting away from an old one. And I think it's an important distinction for anyone out there who's listening to this podcast to realize exactly what Tiffany just said. Being excited for where you're headed at first is going to feel lonely. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go, and it won't always be lonely. It just is going to feel that way at first because you're going to be cutting away from an old path that is no longer serving you. And I just want to bring that to the listeners. Is there anything you can add to that you think will help people?
Yeah, I think it's just, you just have to realize that, there are people out there that are doing what you're doing. There's thousands, millions of people out there that are doing the same things that we're doing. It's just, you have to go to the new places to find them. So for me, I used to, on the weekends, I would be someone that would, go out maybe to the bars or somewhere with my friends. And, now the people that I want to be around, that I want to attract, they're not out doing that. So
the gym.
It's, yeah, exactly. The gym. So
Friday
I think
night,
it's
I'll be
just,
there. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you. I had to at least once.
There
Tiff.
it
I'm
is,
sorry.
Tiff. I told you
there
it was going to happen.
it happened. No, I think it's just putting yourself, getting out there, going to different places, the Meetup app that Kevin mentioned to me, finding these groups of people, and just going out and not being afraid. And, people that are on this journey of personal development are the best people. They're not going, they're not going to judge you. They're probably just as nervous as you are, but you just got to make the connections.
Tiff, so you were talking earlier about, you were cheated on, you were in a toxic relationship. I know we didn't go into the full story, but you moved all over the place. You were broke. You were working, different jobs for part-time and in non-temporary jobs. And back then, compared to now, you're a completely different person, right? So I know you said personal development-wise, I know you said fear chasing, but what limiting beliefs between then and now did you have to shift or break in order to kind of come into your own and really own your journey and own what you're doing?
Yeah. So the biggest limiting belief for me, I think, was just self-confidence and feeling like I was enough for myself, B, another relationship, and then C, the passion and the purpose I have, for trying to change lives. That was my biggest thing after going through something that totally crushed my self-worth. I didn't feel like I was worth anything after that relationship, and my self-confidence, it really did a number on my mentality towards myself. So, I would say a lot of negative things to myself and I would talk to myself very mean. So that's been something I've, had to overcome. And it's been one of the hardest parts of the journey.
You still struggle with that now?
Not so much. Ever since I started doing the practice, as soon as I, would say something negative about myself, I was literally pulling out my phone and making a note of it in my notepad. And, just as soon as I would have those negative thoughts, I would revert to something positive or something I like about myself instead. And I heard it somewhere. Maybe it was from you, I'm not sure, but I heard someone saying, if someone talked as bad to you as you talk to yourself, would you be their friend? And the answer is no. So why would you talk to yourself like that? And that just hit me really hard.
That's Alan's quote, I believe.
Oh, well, probably.
I'll take it. I'll take credit for it, but it wasn't mine.
Yeah. It's Kevin's quote. I'm sure I adapted it from somebody. I also think that it was Doc Gen Fit who came on the show and talked about that.
Shout out to Doc Gen Fit.
Look in the mirror and say all these negative things about herself. I love that you do that and that you did that practice. And when Kevin just asked, by the way, do you still struggle with that? And you got to say no, I lit up like a Christmas tree because I track everything and people think I'm weird, and that's fine. Whatever.
You are?
Yeah, definitely. I have 2 full pages of notes just from this podcast right now, but there's a reason why I do that. And it's because when you track something and you write it down, it raises your awareness of, 1, the fact that you're doing it. 2, it is engaging your central nervous system, which is connected to your brain, and all the neuroscience shows that will actually create new habits. And for anyone out there who struggles with negative thoughts, which we all do, there's nothing more powerful than a notepad or index cards if you're like me, or taking notes. Anytime Tiff would have a negative thought about herself, she would write it down, become aware of it, shift it, and now that's just an unconscious habit. That's a wiring in her now. So that's a great practical advice for anyone out there. But you have to actually do it. That's the thing. We can know these things, but we have to do what we know. So Tiff, I wanted to talk to you real quick a little bit about some of it's my mission personal development has saved my life. Fitness saved my life. It is my mission to bring personal development to the masses. I think people need to know, you can work in your life, but if you don't work on your life and on yourself, you're never going to live the life of your dreams. So from your perspective, coming out of someone who maybe wasn't hyperconscious or quite as hyperconscious as, you are now, what can you tell the listeners about personal development from your perspective? What can they get out of this if they really were to adopt it?
Yeah. So, the biggest thing for me is it's been hope, I guess, and feeling in control of my life. So my entire life I've felt, I've kind of just gone with the flow with everything, with jobs, relationships. And I feel like with personal development, I have a reason for what I'm doing. I want to better myself. And I feel totally in control of my diet, my relationships, my income, my life. I mean, because I'm working so hard to better myself. I don't feel out of control. I feel like what happens to me now, it's my responsibility. I feel like I know I can build the life I want, and that in turn makes me very hopeful and very excited for the future. And I'm fucking happy 24/7. I mean, I have my downs too. Of course, everyone does, but I'm so happy all the time because I'm working toward a brighter future that, what's happening in the moment, it doesn't matter because what's coming in the future is greater. So, I mean, it saved my life too. When you start working on yourself, it's incredible. The mindset, everything. It's crazy.
You are the best. You're the best. I'm so happy right now.
Alan just got so happy.
Right.
I'm
trying to tell everybody, Tiff.
I know. I know. I truly get so excited when like you'll message me and say, this happened or this happened. It's just awesome seeing you. Like, I'm just very happy and I'm very grateful for you because I've learned a lot about people. I've learned a lot about you, but I've also learned a lot about myself. And I think that I'm always super excited to get off the phone with you because you always, one of the things that I admire about you, Tiffany, is you take extreme ownership. So I'll say, hey, how's the diet? Like, I didn't get a weigh-in. And you'll say, well, I just kind of ate like an asshole. And you'll always take full ownership, and you're always willing.
Positive self-talk.
Right. Well, I do say that. I do say that. I say, hey, Tiff, come on. But I think that that's one of the things that I've always really appreciated and admired about you is the fact that like you want feedback. Like you've always said, no, just tell me the truth. Tell me how you really feel. Tell me I've been eating like an asshole. Tell me I'm being lazy. Tell me I'm not doing what I need to do. And I think that's one of your biggest strengths. And I don't know, I think that's going to get you a long way for sure. And I just wanted you to know that it does not go unrecognized, and not everybody has that. So do you think that's something that you've always had, or do you think that's something that somebody can work on? The ability to take feedback and constructive criticism without, being offended.
Right. For me, I feel like that is one thing, I guess, that I've always been like. I've always been able to take feedback because I've always, even through the shit I went through, I've always wanted to be a better person. So it's never really been too much of an issue for me. But I definitely think that anyone can, practice on that and get better at it, because if you can't see yourself the way other people see you, because we have bias against ourselves, whether we think we're the best or the worst or whatever it may be. But someone looking on the outside, they see us for who we truly are. So being able to have that perspective, that means the world. It depends how they deliver it too. I mean, that's a big thing. But if you can take what someone can see about you that maybe you can't even see in yourself, see that you're doing, and use that, I mean, it's just an opportunity to grow. I just look at it as opportunities. It's not anything negative. It's just, okay, I can get better here. Maybe I didn't even realize I was doing this. So I think just, having an open mind and just shifting from, oh, this is bad, to, oh, this is an opportunity to get better.
That's a huge shift. And it's not always easy because sometimes it hurts.
Oh, it always hurts.
Yeah, it always hurts. So there's so many, again, I'm going to keep saying that.
Right.
There's so many questions I want to ask. But first and foremost, so I'm very, very fortunate at this point in my life. I feel like I have such an unbelievable team. I've got listeners behind me. I've got clients behind me. I've got dream team members behind me. I've got friends and family behind me. I've got tons of millionaire mentors who came from nothing behind me that literally text me saying, yo, great job on this. Hey, what was this about? And so I have so many people that have my best interests at heart, regardless of themselves, who know where I'm headed, know why I'm here, and know what I'm doing and why. And it's just, trust me, it has not always been that way. I finally feel like the compound effect of some of my positive habits have shifted to this incredible dream team. Now, the reason I say that is because for the listeners, I've been very fortunate to have several mentors and coaches that have absolutely changed my life. So obviously, Tiffany, you get coached by Kevin. I have several clients. I'm becoming very quickly the world's firmest believer in coaching and how it will change your life. And I haven't always been that way. I was against it and closed off to it for a while too, until I had one coach who made $1.3 million in 6 days. And I don't say that for any other reason than to realize that this dude is hardcore. He takes action. He does not fluff anything up. Like he basically uses a Nietzsche quote. He said, Alan, this is my coaching. The only way you get better is by the truth. And the quality of your life is directly correlated to how much truth you can handle. And so give me a rating. How hardcore can I be? I gave him a 10 out of 10, which was, my goodness, the toughest thing ever. But I grew more in that period working with him than I ever have in my entire life. And to be completely honest with you and the listeners and be vulnerable here, my punctuality lost me that. He believed in me so much that he normally charges $50,000 a year per client, and he did it for me for free. And I lost that opportunity because I couldn't be on time for the calls. And that's one of my biggest weaknesses is punctuality. Kevin's fortunately helped me a lot with that. Tiffany, what do we say to people who have never had a coach, who, like, it's changed my life, it's changed your life, it's changed Kevin's life,
Yes.
mentors and coaches? How do we get people to realize, like, working in your life is what you're always doing. Working on your life is different from an outside perspective. What can we tell people?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, having someone that has personally, been through the same struggles as you, or is, that has years of experience on you and where you want to go. I mean, you can try to figure it out on your own, and that's okay. But you waste so much more time by doing that when you can just link up with someone who's been where you are, who knows where you want to go, and has maybe made all the mistakes, and you can learn from that versus going through, some of those mistakes that are unnecessary. And I just think, I don't know, just having someone that is on the outside, again, looking in and telling you how it is, and just seeing the things that you can't see in yourself to give you perspective, and just having that person there to, encourage you, and just maybe even for some people, like, tell you exactly what to do. That's what I've struggled with, just knowing what to do and being overwhelmed. It's just having that kind of leadership, that mentor, someone to look up to is where you want to go. I just think it's everything, and it can save you a lot of time and get you where you want to go.
So beautifully well said. I know Kevin's about to interject here, but I want to say one thing that same coach I talked about, who I will keep anonymous, he said this. He said, Alan, there are two ways you can learn. You can either listen to the person who's older and wiser and who has literally created the results that you want repeatedly over and over, or you can bang your head against the wall long enough to come and listen to me. And it is super fascinating because if you're out there right now, I think a lot of people want to take advice from people and want to take feedback. But if I'm honest and brutally honest, I think they're taking advice from people, the wrong people. Like, you cannot go up to someone who's completely out of shape and ask them about fitness. Maybe they know about fitness, okay? Maybe they have a unique perspective, but don't roll the dice. You need to go to the people that have, like you said at the beginning of that, they have been through where you're trying to head. They have repeatedly produced the results that you want to see in your life. This is your life. You only get one shot. Make sure you're taking advice from the right people. I know that's something so many people struggle with, so I want to make sure I say that.
Tiffany Wells, you are on version 2.0 of your life. It's like, for the first 25 and a half years of your life, you were living a different life, and now you're, like you said, you realize your purpose, and now you're working towards your purpose, and you're working in alignment with that, and you have a bright future that you're excited for. What does Tiffany Wells hope to accomplish before she leaves this earth behind?
I knew this one was coming.
I didn't see it coming.
So for me, I want to, one of my intentions is to change 1 million women's lives. And another thing I want to do, I've always wanted to do, I want to travel the world. I want to see, I don't know where, I want to go to, like, just everywhere. I want to travel and do that for, like, years at a time. I want to, be able to work and just travel and experience everything, because, I grew up with my grandparents. We never really traveled. We didn't go on vacations. I've never flown. And I feel like I've been in this small corner of the world for so long. I just, I want to get out there and meet people and have these experiences. And then I just, I want to change lives and empower women. So I don't know exactly anything else, but I know those two things for absolute certain.
So just for the listeners, if that was not Tiffany's intention, she would not be on this podcast, because she wouldn't have been willing to face the fear of stepping onto the phone with us and us hitting record and saying, all right, you ready to do this? We're going live. The only reason she's willing to do this is because she determined that this is my purpose, this is my passion. In order to change 1 million plus, a million or more lives, then I have to start doing this now. I want to have my own podcast. I want to be on other people's podcasts. Maybe I want to do speeches in the future. Maybe I want to be a coach in the future. I have to start now. So I want people to link that up. That even, did you feel ready for this, Tiff? Like when we said, all right, you ready to go? Did you feel like 100% ready?
Absolutely not.
Right. And you've done a fucking amazing job, by the way, just so you know.
Yes, you have.
You've done
Thank
so
you.
well. So I want people to link that up. Like, it's going to be uncomfortable. Again, go back and listen to the first episode of this podcast. It's brutal.
Welcome back to the
No, I didn't. I
motherfucking-
deleted that. But it's brutal. But the only reason that Alan and I have done, this is probably going to be like 130.
135.
Yeah,
135?
yeah. Well, I don't know when this one's dropping because we got some in the tank. But we've done almost 140 episodes, and we were willing to crawl through the mud. We were willing to experiment with new equipment and do a new setup and travel and prospect and come up with topics. And the only reason we are is because the end game is to change the world. If we didn't have that end game, would we really be willing to crawl through all the pain and the mud? Fired up.
Powerful. Go ahead, Tiff. You were going to say something?
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
So before this call, Tiff told us that she was very nervous. For all of the listeners out there who think to themselves, I could never be on a podcast. I could never be interviewed and interrupted by Alan constantly.
Right.
Right. You could. You just have never proven it to yourself. You don't have the evidence yet. Confidence comes from evidence of doing things and following through. And doing things and following through comes from the why power that Kevin just mentioned. So if you listen to Tiff at the beginning of this episode, she said intentional. I am living my life intentionally. That's why Kevin asks that question, because he wants people to realize that clarity on your intentions is what will get you to take action, which is what will get you to grow. So I just wanted to bring that to the listeners. Tiff, this has been an unbelievable experience. I want to ask you the question that you probably never saw coming,
Right.
that I ask just about every guest.
Just about every guest.
So you are growing and evolving. I can see that already. It's been an absolute pleasure. But there's something about us, I believe, that never changes. I have a feeling that I know what you're going to say, but I'm very curious to hear your answer. Who am I to tell you what your thing is? I wear the necklace, the true north. It never changes. It's unwavering. It is a guide. It's always there. Brightest star in the sky. I think you are a very bright star. What about you never changed?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just, I think it's my big heart and how I care about people and how I care about things so passionately. I've always been like that my entire life. I just never really knew how to, harness it in a way that makes sense and that is positive. So yeah, just having that compassion and care for people and things and just being so deep and vulnerable with that. I just think that that's me and that'll never change.
Tiffany, what are we using and what is going to be the way that you harness all of that love and positivity? You made a decision recently that you wanted to start a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Can we talk about the podcast and the goal of it and the name of it and what it's going to be? You're ready to go into it?
Yeah, definitely.
Hammer it.
Okay, so after much debate and much help from Kevin.
Did you change? Hold on. Did you change the name? I have to prepare myself.
No,
Okay.
I did not. As soon as you told me that night, it's dead. Like it's never being changed. I love it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the podcast is going to be called Ashes to Passion. So it's the goal and the purpose is to help women take whatever situation they're going through, the rock bottom, whatever shit that they're in, take that and turn it around and improve their lives. Whether that be personal development, finding their passion, just learning to take literally their ashes and turn it into something passionate, to live a passionate life. So that's kind of the whole goal for everything. So I'm just super excited.
I see coaching in your future. I don't know if you have locked in on that yet, but I can tell you right now that I can see coaching in your future for sure.
Yes, I've definitely thought about that. And just even with my one friend that reached out to you that I've talked to, and just even being able to talk to her and even help her shift her mindset a little and just see her even do, better things in her life. It just made me realize, like, people have always gravitated toward me. I have like that, just like a natural kind of, I guess, leadership or mentor vibe, because it's always happened my whole life. And I've always, been there to help people and been the person people look up to. So I think I think that was maybe one of the purposes I've had my whole life that I just never knew until now. So I definitely want to do some kind of coaching in the future.
Tiff, I said this to one of my clients who's very similar to you, and I did anticipate that you would say the big heart, because it's very clear to me that you're unbelievably kind and warm and you care very deeply. This client at the time, this was a long time ago, said to me that I just care too much. And I said, I believe that that is your biggest superpower, the fact that you care so much. Now, here's the problem. If we don't channel it in the right direction, and this is also what I told her. I said, because of how deeply you care, you're more likely to get hurt than people who don't care as much. So I think a lot of us put ice around our heart because it really hurts when things don't go well when you care so deeply. So, but I think that also, I'm sure you've heard this quote, the walls we build up may keep out the bad guys, but it also keeps out the good ones. I think you, now that you're channeling that caring in a direction that is intentional, I think the compound effect of the seemingly insignificant choices you're making is going to be unbelievable. I have no doubt in future years to come, even months from now, we're going to see you blossom into an extraordinary person.
Thank you.
So, Tiffany, I think that let's do this. So we're just about done here. I would like to see if there's anything that you want to leave the listeners with. So, like, when I was on a podcast recently, I kind of wrapped up my thing. Like, my thing is you have 90 fucking years on this earth. I don't want to see you live one of those years with somebody who doesn't respect you. I don't want you to waste one of those years at a job where you're not becoming more and you're not happy. And I want you to add, positivity and happiness and fulfillment into every single year that you can. I'm sure Alan would have like a little short thing he would say as well. Do you have one?
Oh, yeah.
Say it. Oh, yeah.
Personal development is not just a concept, but it's a real tangible thing that will change your life. The only way your life gets better is if you do first.
Morning minutes. Is there anything that you would like to leave the listeners with? Do you have anything like a little motivational thing you have going on for you? Putting you on the spot here.
I know you did, but I've got something.
Of course you do.
So, so I think for me, it's when you're going through that dark time, when you've hit that rock bottom, instead of staying there, look up, find the light, gratitude, look at what you do have and build upon that, and just the whole I get to mentality. I think think going through that darkness, just don't let it overcome you, and realize that you can either succumb to it and you can continue to allow negative things into your life, or you can flip it around. You can look at what you do have, and on the other side of that rock bottom is, that's your life. That's the life you want to live. That's the best years of your life. So I just think it's just so important, if you're going through shit, to just not give up and just, you can turn it around.
Tiffany, I am so proud of you. I think at some point you should go back and watch that video just for perspective. But I really want you to know that, like, I'm unbelievably impressed with you. I am grateful and privileged to be able to help you, and it's an honor. I want you to know that. I'm always so happy to get off the phone with you, because I'm always blown away by your ability to just say, okay, this is the stuff I have to get done. Like, I'm going to put my head down and do it, while working a full-time job, while being sick, while doing whatever it is. So I appreciate you very much. I'm so glad that you were willing to fear chase with us. I hope we weren't too hard on you. I feel like we weren't, but you did a great job. You did an unbelievable job. And for the listeners, when this podcast does come to fruition, when it gets released, I will definitely be a listener, because if you do what you did on this podcast every week, on the podcast that you have, Ashes to Passion, everything is going to be just fine.
Yes.
Anything else?
It's been an absolute honor, Tiffany. I look forward very much to seeing you continue to blossom.
Yes, thank you guys. Just even from the bottom of my heart, the Hyperconscious podcast changed my life. I mean, both of you have been a role in changing my life. Kevin, you're the best fucking coach. No offense, Alan. Fuck you. But I appreciate you both so much more than words could ever express.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode like we did recording. Clearly, there's just so much love going on right now. I think this is not a coincidence. This just came we just recorded this after the gratitude episode dropped recently. So we hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed recording, and we will talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.